He moved quietly through the base, offering prayer, soft words, and warm cups of tea to anyone seeking guidance. For 6 months, Imam Hassan had been a comforting presence at the Coronado SEAL training facility. To the candidates, he was simply the chaplain, a man of faith, a counselor, a spiritual anchor for those observing Islam during one of the most intense training programs on earth. He never raised his voice, never tried to stand out. The recruits saw him during reflection hours, leading prayers, listening patiently to those wrestling with grief, pressure, or doubt. To them, he was the definition of calm in a storm, but never part of the storm itself. He wasn't combat. He wasn't command. He was just support. That illusion shattered the moment the emergency alarm blared across the compound. Smoke simulation. Screams. A staged disaster scenario gone live. But before even the duty officers could react, Imam Hassan was already moving, radio in hand, issuing commands in clipped, clear language. His steps were precise, his directions sharp, as if decades of tactical training were flooding back in real time. Within minutes, he had taken control of the scene, coordinating extractions, mapping rescue paths, and barking commands that even hardened SEAL instructors instinctively obeyed. Because Imam Hassan wasn't just a chaplain, he was a former special operations officer whose past wasn't in the paperwork, but lived in muscle memory and silence. And that day, the recruits learned that faith and fire can live in the same man. Welcome to Silent Salute, where we discover that the most peaceful people sometimes carry the most surprising capabilities. Before we continue this incredible story, tell us in the comments from which city in the world are you watching this video today. And if you believe that wisdom and strength can coexist in the same person, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. We're honored to share these remarkable stories with you. Imam Hassan had been serving as the Muslim chaplain at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado for 8 months, providing spiritual guidance and religious services to the growing population of Muslim service members in naval special warfare. His assignment was part of the military's effort to ensure that personnel of all faiths had access to appropriate religious support, particularly in high-stress environments like special operations training. At 55 years old, Hassan presented exactly the image most people expected from a religious leader. He was soft-spoken, thoughtful, and approached every interaction with the kind of patient wisdom that came from years of providing spiritual counsel to people facing difficult challenges. His small office in the base chapel was decorated with Islamic calligraphy and religious texts, and he was always available for prayer, meditation, or simply conversation with anyone seeking spiritual guidance. To the SEAL candidates and instructors who encountered Hassan during their training, he represented the peaceful, contemplative aspect of religious life that seemed far removed from the violent realities of special operations. His presence at the base was welcomed, but largely peripheral to the intense focus on combat training and physical conditioning that characterized the SEAL program. Hassan conducted weekly religious services for Muslim personnel, provided counseling for candidates struggling with moral or spiritual questions related to military service, and served as a cultural advisor for operations involving Muslim populations. His role was important but appeared to be entirely separate from the tactical and operational aspects of SEAL training. What the SEAL community didn't know was that Hassan's path to becoming a military chaplain had been far from conventional. Before entering religious service, he'd spent 15 years as a captain in the Jordanian Special Forces, including assignments to counterterrorism units and classified operations that had given him experience with exactly the kind of tactical challenges that SEAL candidates were learning to handle. Hassan's transition from special operations officer to religious leader had been gradual and deliberate. After completing his military service, he pursued advanced religious education while working as a security consultant for international organizations operating in dangerous regions. His unique combination of tactical expertise and spiritual wisdom had eventually led to his appointment as a military chaplain specializing in support for special operations personnel. But Hassan had deliberately minimized discussion of his military background when he'd been assigned to Coronado. He believed that his effectiveness as a spiritual counselor depended on people seeing him as a man of peace rather than a former warrior, and he'd worked carefully to establish relationships based on his religious role rather than his tactical experience. Class 354 had been training at Coronado for 10 weeks, progressing through the increasingly difficult challenges that would determine which candidates earned the right to call themselves Navy SEALs. The class had started with 32 candidates and had been reduced to 21 through voluntary withdrawals and performance-based eliminations. The remaining candidates represented the cream of naval personnel, former Marines with combat experience, college athletes with exceptional physical capabilities, and dedicated warriors who'd spent years preparing for the opportunity to join America's most elite fighting force. Lieutenant Marcus Chun was typical of the high-caliber candidates who'd survived 10 weeks of SEAL training. A former Naval Academy graduate with engineering expertise and proven leadership capabilities, Chun had consistently performed in the top quartile of his class while maintaining the teamwork and character standards that SEAL instructors demanded. Petty Officer Rodriguez had also distinguished himself throughout training, demonstrating the kind of mental toughness and tactical intelligence that characterized successful special operations personnel. His background as a Navy rescue swimmer had given him exceptional water confidence and the kind of life-saving instincts that translated well to SEAL training challenges. Both Chun and Rodriguez had encountered Imam Hassan during their time at Coronado, but their interactions had been limited to the occasional greeting and brief conversations about the challenges of military training. Like most candidates, they respected Hassan's role as a spiritual leader but didn't consider him particularly relevant to their tactical education. The training facility at Coronado included a complex of buildings designed to simulate various operational environments that SEAL teams might encounter during actual missions. One of these facilities was a multi-story structure that replicated urban combat scenarios, complete with multiple rooms, stairwells, and realistic obstacles that challenged candidates to apply tactical principles in close-quarters environments. It was in this facility that Class 354 was conducting advanced tactical training when the emergency that would reveal Hassan's true capabilities occurred. The exercise was designed to test candidates' ability to clear hostile buildings while protecting simulated civilian hostages. Multiple teams would work simultaneously through different sections of the facility, coordinating their movements to neutralize threats while minimizing risk to noncombatants. The scenario was complex and demanding, requiring candidates to balance speed with precision, aggression with restraint, and individual initiative with team coordination. Success depended not just on tactical proficiency, but on clear communication and effective leadership under pressure. Lieutenant Chun was leading one team through the second floor of the facility when a malfunction in the building's electrical system created a real emergency that superseded the training exercise. Overloaded circuits caused a fire that began spreading rapidly through the structure, creating immediate danger for the candidates and instructors inside. The fire alarm system activated automatically, but the electrical malfunction also disabled the building's emergency lighting and communication systems. What had been a controlled training environment suddenly became a real-life emergency where people's lives were at genuine risk. Chief Petty Officer Williams, who was overseeing the training exercise from a command post on the first floor, immediately recognized the severity of the situation. The building was filling with smoke, the electrical systems were failing, and he had 21 candidates and 6 instructors scattered throughout a structure that was becoming increasingly dangerous. All personnel evacuate immediately, Williams broadcast over the base emergency communication system. This is not a drill. Evacuate the building through primary and secondary exits. But the evacuation was complicated by the same electrical failures that had caused the fire. Emergency lighting was inconsistent, exit signs were not functioning, and the smoke was making navigation difficult even for people familiar with the building layout. Chen's team on the second floor found their planned exit route blocked by smoke and electrical hazards. Rodriguez's team in the basement discovered that their emergency exit was jammed, apparently damaged by the electrical malfunction. Other teams throughout the building were reporting similar problems that prevented orderly evacuation. Williams realized that the standard evacuation procedures weren't adequate for the complex emergency they were facing. The building's safety systems had failed, multiple exit routes were compromised, and he needed to coordinate a more sophisticated rescue operation to ensure that all personnel escaped safely. That's when Imam Hassan appeared at Williams' command post, moving with purpose and authority that seemed completely at odds with his usual gentle demeanor. "Chief Williams," Hassan said with calm confidence, I need you to give me tactical command of this evacuation. I can get everyone out safely, but I need you to trust my instructions." Williams was initially confused by Hassan's request. Religious leaders didn't typically take command of tactical operations, and the emergency required expertise that seemed outside a chaplain's normal capabilities. "Imam, I appreciate your concern, but this is a tactical situation that requires specialized training." Hassan's response revealed capabilities that Williams had never suspected. "Chief, I have 15 years of experience in tactical rescue operations. I can coordinate this evacuation more effectively than anyone else currently available." Williams looked around at the chaos developing in the training facility and made a decision that would save lives and reveal Hassan's true background to the entire SEAL community. "Imam Hassan, you have tactical command of this operation." What happened next transformed everyone's understanding of who Imam Hassan really was and what capabilities could be hidden behind the role of spiritual counselor. Hassan immediately began coordinating the evacuation with tactical precision that seemed impossible for someone whose only apparent expertise was in religious matters. He quickly assessed the building layout, identified alternative exit routes that the electrical failure hadn't compromised, and began directing teams with the kind of systematic approach that characterized professional rescue operations. "Chun, your team needs to move to the northeast stairwell," Hassan transmitted over the emergency communication system. "The main stairs are compromised by electrical hazards, but the northeast route is clear. Move immediately." Chun was surprised to hear the imam's voice on tactical communications, but the authority in Hassan's tone and the precision of his instructions left no room for debate. "Copy, moving to northeast stairwell." Hassan continued coordinating movements throughout the building with expertise that indicated extensive experience with complex rescue operations. "Rodriguez, the basement exit is jammed, but there's a maintenance access in the southwest corner that connects to the utility tunnel system. Follow that route to emerge at the vehicle maintenance building." Rodriguez was equally surprised by Hassan's tactical knowledge, but recognized that the imam's instructions were more detailed and specific than anything they'd received during the initial evacuation attempts. "Understood, moving to southwest maintenance access." Hassan's coordination wasn't limited to directing movement. He was also managing the overall tactical situation with the kind of comprehensive awareness that characterized experienced special operations leaders. "Williams, we need fire suppression focused on the second-floor electrical panel room to prevent the fire from spreading to the ammunition storage area. Also, position emergency medical personnel at exit points Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie to treat anyone suffering from smoke inhalation." Williams was following Hassan's instructions while trying to process how a military chaplain had developed such sophisticated understanding of emergency coordination procedures. "Imam, how do you know about our ammunition storage locations and emergency medical protocols?" Hassan's answer would soon reveal the extensive military background he'd kept hidden since his assignment to Coronado. "Chief, I'll explain everything once everyone is safely evacuated. Right now, I need you to trust my tactical assessment and follow my coordination instructions." As the evacuation continued, Hassan demonstrated capabilities that seemed impossible for someone whose only apparent training was in religious leadership. He was coordinating multiple teams simultaneously, adapting to changing conditions as the fire spread, and making tactical decisions that required extensive knowledge of building systems, emergency procedures, and personnel management. "Instructor Martinez, take your team through the vehicle bay and establish a casualty collection point at the main parking area," Hassan directed with the calm authority of someone accustomed to managing life-threatening emergencies. "We'll need medical evaluation for everyone who was exposed to smoke." Martinez, a veteran SEAL instructor with multiple combat deployments, found himself taking tactical direction from a chaplain whose expertise seemed to exceed his own in emergency coordination. "Copy that, Imam. Moving to establish casualty collection point." Hassan's coordination became even more impressive as complications developed during the evacuation. When a secondary electrical failure threatened to trap one team on the third floor, Hassan immediately adapted his tactical plan to account for the new constraints. "Peterson, the third floor is now isolated by electrical hazards. You'll need to move to the roof and establish a rappel point using the emergency equipment stored in the roof access area. I'm coordinating helicopter evacuation for your team." Peterson was a former Marine with extensive combat experience, but he'd never heard of emergency equipment stored in the roof access area. Imam, I'm not familiar with roof emergency equipment. Hassan's response revealed detailed knowledge of building systems that most personnel didn't possess. Northwest corner of the roof, red emergency cache, contains climbing rope, harnesses, and anchoring hardware. You'll find detailed instructions inside the cache. Peterson moved to the roof and found exactly the equipment Hassan had described, positioned precisely where he'd indicated. The emergency cache included not just basic climbing gear, but professionally maintained equipment that indicated sophisticated emergency planning. How did you know about this equipment? Peterson asked over the radio. Hassan's answer suggested involvement in emergency planning that went far beyond his chaplain duties. I conducted a comprehensive security assessment of all base facilities when I arrived. Emergency preparedness is part of my responsibilities. As teams continued evacuating using Hassan's tactical coordination, it became clear that his knowledge of the base and its systems exceeded what would be expected from someone whose role was primarily religious counseling. But the most impressive demonstration of Hassan's capabilities came when the helicopter evacuation he'd requested encountered complications that required immediate tactical adaptation. Hassan, helicopter evacuation is delayed due to weather conditions, the base operations center reported. Estimated arrival time, now 30 minutes. Hassan immediately developed an alternative evacuation plan that demonstrated the kind of flexible tactical thinking that characterized experienced special operations leaders. Peterson, weather delay means we need alternative extraction from the roof. Move to the southeast corner and establish zip line to the adjacent building using equipment from the emergency cache. I'm coordinating ground support for landing zone preparation. The zip line evacuation Hassan proposed was technically complex and required expertise that seemed impossible for a religious leader to possess. But his instructions were precise and professional, indicating extensive experience with unconventional extraction methods. Peterson established the zip line evacuation route exactly as Hassan had directed, and his team successfully evacuated from the roof to the adjacent building without injury. Imam, Peterson reported after completing the evacuation, that zip line technique was flawless. Where did you learn those procedures? Hassan's response hinted at the extensive tactical background he'd been concealing since his assignment to Coronado. I've had some training in unconventional evacuation methods. I'll explain more once everyone is safely accounted for. By the time the emergency evacuation was completed, Hassan had successfully coordinated the rescue of 27 personnel from a building fire using tactical methods that exceeded the capabilities of most professional rescue organizations. All personnel were safely evacuated without serious injury. The fire was contained before it could spread to critical base facilities, and the emergency response had been executed with precision that impressed even experienced SEAL instructors. But questions about Hassan's extraordinary tactical capabilities were just beginning. After the emergency evacuation was completed and all personnel were confirmed safe, Chief Williams requested an immediate debriefing with Hassan to understand how a military chaplain had demonstrated such sophisticated tactical expertise. Imam Hassan, Williams began. Your coordination of that evacuation was exceptional. Your tactical knowledge and emergency management capabilities exceeded what we'd expect from someone with your background. Hassan realized that his response to the emergency had revealed capabilities he'd deliberately kept hidden since his assignment to Coronado. The time for maintaining his carefully constructed image as a simple religious leader was over. Chief Williams, there are aspects of my background that I haven't discussed since my assignment here. The emergency situation required me to use capabilities that I normally keep separate from my chaplain duties. Williams was prepared for an explanation that Hassan had received additional emergency management training as part of his chaplain preparation. What he wasn't prepared for was the revelation of Hassan's actual background and the reason for his assignment to SEAL training. Chief, before I became a military chaplain, I served 15 years as a captain in the Jordanian Special Forces, including assignments to counter-terrorism units and classified international operations. Williams felt like he'd been hit by a physical blow. Jordanian Special Forces were among the most elite military units in the Middle East, with a reputation for exceptional training and operational effectiveness that rivaled American special operations. Sir, You were a Jordanian Special Forces officer? Hassan nodded. I commanded counter-terrorism operations, led international training exchanges, and participated in classified missions that I cannot discuss in detail. My tactical experience includes exactly the kind of emergency coordination and rescue operations we just conducted. Williams was processing the implications of having had an experienced foreign special operations officer serving as a chaplain at SEAL training without anyone knowing his background. Imam, why wasn't your military background included in your assignment information? Hassan's answer revealed the complexity of international military cooperation and the security considerations involved in his assignment to American Special Operations. My assignment here is part of a classified cooperation program between American and Jordanian Special Operations. My official role as chaplain provides cover for my actual mission, which involves sharing tactical expertise and training methods between our special operations communities. Williams realized he'd been unknowingly working with someone whose tactical expertise might exceed that of many American Special Operations personnel. Sir, what is your actual mission at this base? Hassan explained the true purpose of his assignment, which was far more complex than simple religious support. I'm here to evaluate American Special Operations training methods, share Jordanian techniques that might enhance your capabilities, and identify opportunities for operational cooperation between our forces. Hassan continued, my role as chaplain allows me to observe training operations, interact with personnel at all levels, and assess capabilities without creating the security complications that would come with having an acknowledged foreign military officer embedded in SEAL training. Williams was beginning to understand that Hassan's assignment represented a level of international military cooperation that few American personnel were aware of. Imam, how long have you been conducting this evaluation? 8 months, Hassan replied. I've observed hundreds of hours of training, interviewed dozens of candidates and instructors, and developed comprehensive assessments of American Special Operations methods. Williams asked the question that was most relevant to immediate operations. Sir, based on your evaluation, what have you learned about our training effectiveness? Hassan's answer provided insights into American Special Operations that came from the perspective of an experienced foreign observer with comparable tactical background. American SEAL training is exceptional in physical conditioning and individual tactical skills. Your candidates develop superior marksmanship, exceptional physical capabilities, and good basic tactical knowledge. Hassan continued, but there are areas where Jordanian methods might enhance your training effectiveness, specifically in cultural intelligence, linguistic preparation, and integration of religious and cultural factors into operational planning. Williams was fascinated by Hassan's assessment and eager to learn more about potential improvements to SEAL training methods. What specific enhancements would you recommend? Hassan's recommendations reflected years of experience with special operations in culturally complex environments where American forces often struggled with factors outside their training experience. First, enhanced cultural intelligence training that goes beyond basic language skills to include understanding of social structures, religious practices, and decision-making processes in target populations. Hassan explained that many special operations failures occurred not because of tactical inadequacy, but because of cultural misunderstanding that led to ineffective interaction with local populations. Second, integration of religious and cultural advisors into operational planning and execution. Many missions succeed or fail based on religious and cultural factors that purely tactical personnel cannot adequately assess. Hassan's third recommendation addressed a specific weakness he'd observed in American Special Operations training. Third, enhanced training in unconventional tactical methods that don't rely on technological superiority. American Special Operations excel when they have equipment advantages, but struggle when forced to operate with minimal resources in austere environments. Williams was taking detailed notes, recognizing that Hassan's recommendations could significantly enhance SEAL training and operational effectiveness. But Hassan had more to reveal about his background and the broader implications of the international cooperation program he represented. Chief Williams, there's something else you should understand about my assignment here. The evaluation I'm conducting is part of a broader intelligence sharing agreement that includes operational cooperation between American and Jordanian special operations. Hassan explained that his assessment of American capabilities would be used to develop joint training programs and coordinate operational planning for missions that required both American and Jordanian expertise. Additionally, my assignment here allows me to identify American personnel who might be suitable for training exchanges in Jordan, where they could learn techniques and cultural knowledge that would enhance their effectiveness in Middle Eastern operations. Williams realized that Hassan's presence at SEAL training represented opportunities for enhanced international cooperation that could benefit American special operations for years to come. Imam, would you be willing to formalize your recommendations and develop enhanced training programs that incorporate Jordanian methods? Hassan's agreement to expand his role would transform SEAL training in ways that enhanced both American capabilities and international cooperation. Chief, I would be honored to contribute to enhancing American special operations training. My mission here was always intended to include practical cooperation, not just evaluation. Hassan's revelation fundamentally changed his relationship with the SEAL community and led to significant enhancements in training methods that incorporated international perspectives and techniques. His formal integration into SEAL training development resulted in new programs that addressed cultural intelligence, unconventional tactics, and religious factors in operational planning. These enhancements proved invaluable as American special operations increasingly operated in culturally complex environments where traditional tactical training was insufficient. The candidates who had witnessed Hassan's emergency coordination became advocates for international cooperation and cultural integration in special operations. They understood that effective military leadership could come from unexpected sources and that the most valuable expertise often came from people whose backgrounds differed from conventional American military experience. Lieutenant Chun, who had received tactical direction from Hassan during the evacuation, completed SEAL training with enhanced appreciation for international cooperation and cultural intelligence. Years later, as a team leader, Chun would specifically request assignments that involved working with foreign special operations units. Petty Officer Rodriguez similarly credited Hassan's example with expanding his understanding of effective leadership and tactical innovation. His subsequent operational career included successful missions that relied on unconventional methods and cultural knowledge that Hassan's training had made possible. Hassan's dual role as chaplain and tactical advisor became a model for international cooperation that was adopted by other special operations training facilities. His success demonstrated that cultural and religious advisors could enhance rather than compromise tactical effectiveness when they possessed appropriate military backgrounds. The emergency evacuation that had revealed Hassan's capabilities became a case study in leadership, tactical innovation, and the importance of utilizing all available expertise during crisis situations. The incident proved that effective leaders came from many backgrounds and that tactical excellence could coexist with spiritual wisdom. Hassan continued his assignment at SEAL training for an additional year, during which he developed comprehensive programs that enhanced American special operations capabilities while strengthening cooperation between American and Jordanian forces. His recommendations for enhanced cultural intelligence training became standard components of SEAL education, ensuring that future operators would be better prepared for the cultural complexities they would encounter during international operations. The unconventional tactical methods Hassan introduced provided American special operations with capabilities that proved essential during operations in austere environments where technological advantages were limited or unavailable. But perhaps Hassan's greatest contribution was demonstrating that international cooperation could enhance American capabilities without compromising operational security or effectiveness. His success opened doors for similar cooperation programs with other allied special operations forces. Hassan's story became part of SEAL education about the importance of recognizing expertise wherever it could be found and the value of learning from international partners who approached similar challenges from different perspectives. The quiet imam who had served tea and provided spiritual guidance proved to be one of the most tactically sophisticated individuals ever to serve at SEAL training. His example reminded the community that assumptions about capability based on role or appearance could prevent recognition of valuable expertise. When Hassan completed his assignment and returned to Jordan, he carried with him detailed knowledge of American special operations that enhanced Jordanian capabilities and enabled better coordination during joint operations. The cooperation program Hassan had pioneered continued with other international officers who brought different perspectives and techniques to American special operations training. His model of embedded cultural and tactical advisors became a standard method for enhancing military effectiveness through international cooperation. Years later, when American and Jordanian special operations worked together in complex international missions, the success of their cooperation was often traced back to the relationships and understanding that Hassan's assignment had created. His legacy lived on in the enhanced cultural intelligence of American special operations, the improved tactical capabilities that came from international training exchange, and the broader understanding that the most effective military organizations were those that learned from the best practices of allied forces. The emergency evacuation that had revealed Hassan's true capabilities became a symbol of how crisis situations often revealed hidden strengths and unexpected leadership that could emerge from the most unlikely sources. This story was brought to you by Silent Salute. Before we leave you today, here's our question. Have you ever discovered that someone whose role seemed purely peaceful or spiritual actually possessed remarkable tactical or leadership capabilities that emerged during a crisis? Someone who proved that wisdom and strength, compassion and competence could coexist in the same person? Tell us in the comments about the hidden warriors you've encountered in unexpected roles. And if you believe that true leadership can emerge from any background and that international cooperation makes everyone stronger, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. Every story reminds us that the most effective teams are those that recognize and utilize expertise wherever it can be found, regardless of conventional expectations or apparent limitations. We'll see you in the next one.